Hello, this is Sound Mind. I'm Justin Hawes. This is Stephen Damerville, and today we're taking your calls. We got Josh on line one. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I have a few problems.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I heard that you guys can help me with those.
Of course.
Yeah, so when I get into a room with people, not by myself,
Yes.
I just freak out.
Okay, that's very interesting, Josh. Can you please tell me what a freak out consists of?
I whip out my hair, I scream,
Wow.
and then take off my clothes and run away.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. With the scream, is there any particular timbre?
it's pretty shrill.
Okay, very shrill scream. At all clothes or just
Just shirt.
just shirt? Okay.
Just shirt off.
How much hair are we talking about? Head hair, chest hair,
I try to whip whatever is closest.
whatever is closest. Someone else's hair, perhaps.
I've never done that.
Okay, well, I think we've both got some advice for you. Stevie, do you want to go first?
Well, it sounds like this problem is you're at about a 4 because you haven't yet ripped out another person's hair. That's about a 6. We've seen this before. And you're not an ISO extreme rager, someone who does it by themselves.
Yeah.
So that actually makes it more severe. But I think it's important to take a look inside and ask yourself the hard questions. What makes you freak out? Look at that thing and be honest with yourself. And I think that it's best to do this when you are alone.
Okay.
And examine yourself and stay in the moment. If there are memories that come to mind, you want to ponder them. And just really go there. They might be childhood things. It's really important to push through these setbacks so that you can grow and become a productive person and not freak out around people, So you have to do the hard work.
Yeah.
My advice is that you abandon the garbage heap that is humanity
Yes.
and find a home in the woods, or perhaps the forest, or the plains, the desert, away from humankind. Build a hut or some kind of structure and live there forever, away from everyone.
I like that one.
In complete isolation?
Complete isolation.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Now that I hear that out loud, I think that is better advice.
Yeah, your one is a
yes.
little. I have to think to do your one.
Right.
The other one I just kind of get to do.
Right.
Anyway,
That sounds about
Doo-doo.
right.
do.
All right, well,
right.
welcome to
Welcome to-
Sound Mind Podcast. We
Yes.
have Joshua Knott here. He
Hello.
was a caller, and now he's a guest.
Yes.
Abracadabra.
Yeah, there it is.
From the phone line to the booth. Unless you're watching this on YouTube, then
Also,
you
I-
realize
He's been here the
Don't
whole
freak
time.
out
the trick of it.
around people.
Right.
So
Of
everybody
course.
is
We're
well
gonna
aware.
test that.
That
We're gonna
was
test
a-
that. I'm not sure if that's true.
That was a skit.
Yes.
Do we call it?
That was a
skit?
skit.
Okay.
That was for jokes. That was not for reality.
Thanks for clarifying
Yes,
that,
thank you.
Justin.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I was happy that everybody knows that.
Yeah. So welcome to the show.
Thank
We're glad
you.
to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
Really happy to be here.
So you grew up in Spokane, but you haven't been here for a while. You've been busy. You have been out of town for a period of how long?
9 months. Been gone for 9 months.
9 months. Not in utero.
Not in utero.
Right.
Nope.
What?
That
Why
was
would
a
you?
joke.
Why would you say something like that, like that,
I
Stevie?
know.
That's so weird.
Who knows, man?
Yeah.
I feel like I've been here before.
It was like we've done. Anyway. I've been in Redding, California, attending Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. And it was the best year of my life.
Wow.
Got to meet some of the most amazing people ever. Got to meet some of the best friends I'll have forever. God really changed my life. I learned a lot about me. Learned a lot about Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit. And just all in all, just best year of my life, honestly.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm going back. I'm here for 3 months. Stevie doesn't like that I'm going back.
Not happy, but I am happy.
He wanted me here.
I'm
I guess.
unhappily, selfishly, unhappily. I don't know, man. I'm just, if I had it my way, it wouldn't be happening.
I
Probably
would be
not.
here.
That's
yeah.
probably not true either. Whatever. You get what I'm saying.
I'm going back for second year. So I'm here working, and then in August 30th is the day I'm leaving. And yeah, I got accepted already. I paid my deposit, and I'm just working to pay the rest of it off.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm also taking donations for
Yes.
whatever.
Second year
second
is
year.
costly.
It's $5,200
Yeah.
overall.
Yikes.
And so I'm gonna be working around 50 hours and all that, and I'm a manager at Subway, but and so I'll have enough, but it just depends on how much money I'll be going to Reading with. I could go to Reading with $500 or $1,000 or whatever. It just all depends on if
Are you gonna do third year? Do you know that already?
I do.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna.
are?
Yeah.
So see, let's just I just you're gonna raise enough money for this year, missions trips next year. Like that's the goal, is that you have to not worry about money.
Yeah. Next year is actually only $900.
Oh, okay.
And so because you're interning for somebody, so
Right.
you're actually kind of doing a job and paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's only $900 in Reading. Also, you get to. It depends on who you intern for. But if you stay in Reading, it's $900. So I can handle that.
Right.
It's just second year and first year were both $5,000, and I paid for all first year, and I have a small window to make $5,000 in 4 months, and
Gotcha.
it's hard to do that when you don't have like an actual job.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So say I have like $2,000 I want to give to you
Okay.
right now. What do I do? How do I do it?
So you can go onto Facebook, and there's a link. So my last post, I kind of described what first year was for me, why I want to do second year, how first year impacted me, and how much money it's going to be, and then how much I still need and stuff like that. And there's a link at the end of that you can click on, and then go straight to me, and it's you donate for Joshua, and then you can put out as much money as you would like in there,
Awesome.
and you can send it on over. I'm
Awesome.
pretty sure it's tax deductible too.
Yeah.
So there you guys
There
go.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're not friends and you want to be, or you have it on your heart to give, then find Joshua Knott, Knott, on Facebook. Be his friend. Give him money.
Yes.
Bless his socks off. Actually,
Yeah.
probably on, because you got hairy toes.
Yeah. Wait, what?
I saw a picture.
Wow.
Don't
that's
look
weird.
at that on Facebook.
That's really weird.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm really excited. Super excited. Second year is gonna be better than first. You know, God only goes from glory to glory. So
Yeah. Yeah, he's taking you with him.
yeah,
Yeah.
So-
That's awesome.
I'm
Awesome.
really excited.
Cool. Okay, so a couple things I wanted to point out. I know you haven't been actively pursuing it for a while, but you're up and coming, learning, sound engineer.
Yes.
Super gifted for
Okay,
a young age.
Thank you.
Yeah, 18, right?
18. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turned 19 in a week.
Yeah, it's just you got a strong ear, and so you want to talk to us a little bit about like how you got into music, what music is like for you, how you maybe got into loving the engineer world.
Yeah, for sure. So I've always really enjoyed music. It's just something that I don't know why I've always really liked it. I used to be a drummer, wasn't that good, but I was always around music and always enjoyed it. And then at Zion, I was a drummer for youth group for like 1 or 2 weeks, like nothing, like really. But then they switched to like in-ears, and they had a click. And I couldn't play with a click because I wasn't, again, not that good. So I stopped learning and stopped trying to play drums. And my brother Bradley was like, hey, you want to do sound? And I was like, sure. And then that's how it was. And then I just kind of did it. And then I didn't realize that I was good at it because I was just doing it.
Yeah.
And it seemed very easy to me. And then people started telling me my mixes were good. And then Stevie started telling me my mixes were good, which I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm actually good at this.
Yeah.
And then you got a studio. And then my really good friend Frank recorded here, and I wanted to be a part of that process. So I was here, try to be here most sessions, and record with him and try to learn the studio and stuff like that. And I was super excited and still am. And it kind of sucked that I left kind of as the studio was getting more popular. And then I came back and the studio was popular and I'm leaving again.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, no, it's just over and over and over again.
I'm glad that I'm not the only one feeling the pain.
You're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone, Stevie. You're never alone.
We're both paying a cost.
Yeah. Mine, I feel like I get a greater reward.
That's probably true.
You just don't get me.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
All right, okay, that's enough, right? You don't have to twist the knife.
But I'm really, it was just super fun for me, and we got a new soundboard and got to be able to do different things, different effects, and actually what I wanted to do. And then just kind of there was one time it clicked that I was good at it, because I didn't listen to a song. It's called All Hail King Jesus. And we played it here, and I added delay on the vocals. And then I listened to the actual recording, and they added delay. And I was like, oh, shoot. I knew that song needed something.
Yeah.
Or needed some more reverb, or needed some more delay. And then I did it, and then these people who are professionals also did it.
Right.
And so it was a cool, oh, I actually have an ear for this. And I think it's just from listening to music over and a lot of it over and over again.
Yeah. I there's a pastor that was a mentor, Dave Derrick at Spokane Dream Center, and I remember early on when I first started walking with the Lord, he said a lot of times you'll find your calling where your passions lie. And so a lot of times we get super excited about something. I feel like it's a clue that we get, to know what to pursue and, what to navigate. So I remember that about you. You were doing sound, but you were really excited about it. I've trained and worked with a lot of different people doing sound, and that's not super common. That's something you look for. And then the actual, sometimes you get somebody who's really excited that's just not gonna, isn't that great? And you're like, what do you got, earplugs in? You can't hear what's happening? But anyway, you got to have both, that excitement and the actual ear to be able to do it. So that was something I noticed about you.
So, slightly off-topic question for both of you.
No way, no. Yeah.
In what situation would you choose delay over reverb, or vice versa?
Well, I don't really know. I don't really have a situation. Most vocals all have reverb on it. And Stevie actually told me when I was first starting that a lot of the times now we feel like it needs to be heard, but actually it's just kind of supposed to warm up the vocals, not be overpowering. But then there's times that you okay, this song...
Drench it.
Where you're like, okay, well, I really want this line, especially delay, it's my favorite. I love it. When somebody sings a line that kind of, I feel like if I heard this line sung in a cathedral, would I like it more than if they just sung it in a regular church?
Yeah.
Is how I envision it. So, if there's a line that I go, that would sound great if it was just and just so big. And, big parts, you can just add that little bit, and it just makes it so much fuller.
Yeah.
Delay, people don't even sometimes realize that it's there.
Yeah.
Because if you do the right tempo and you do just enough, it just adds a nice...
It's a longer kind of trail. It's an ambient trail.
And it just adds...
Yeah, there's other uses of delay where it's not like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's typically what it...
A lot of guitarists will use it to, create their own harmonies.
Right.
So they'll be doing, a scale, right? And then they'll be playing to a tempo. So they plan it all out so that when they play the next note, they're harmonizing to the first note and so on. But yeah, I was just curious for a live scenario with vocals, for instance.
Yeah, technically, reverb in a mix reverb takes up this is just true all the time, actually. Reverb takes up way more space in the mix.
Yeah.
So when you add reverb, you add a lot of sound and a lot of frequencies to the mix, right? So a lot of times if you add reverb, you're going to, especially if you're adding a lot, you're going to compensate by ducking out some of the low mid-range because it'll add a lot of mud. And then so it'll sound good, but it'll take the clarity out of the words or notes or whatever you're putting it on. Delay doesn't take up space like that. Delay is, it's a repeating, like you said, it could be a slow repeating or a fast repeating. Some delay is so quick that it sounds more like a reverb, but it takes up a lot more space in a mix. So faster tempo songs, a lot of times I'll use more delay and less reverb on faster tempo songs because you don't have enough space. You don't have as much space. And so delay works good without creating mud,
Sure.
And then on lower stuff, like slower tempo stuff, filling in those, sustaining moments, with lots of reverb is cool, and then having some delay. So I'm typically, not always, but like reverb and delay, slower tempos, I'll probably have a higher amount of reverb as opposed to delay. And then faster tempo songs, I might use delay more than I actually use reverb. And then my reverb times will be a lot shorter. That's a whole nother thing I could go wigging into. Like your reverb time, needs to work with your tempo of your song. Because if your tail of your reverb is going into the next phrase, then that creates issues for you too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff to it, but that's a kind of a short technical piece of it.
All right, well, I'll take it.
Take it. Yeah. So you had some questions about Bethel, I think we talked about earlier. You want to ask those?
Is it a cult?
No.
That's the question.
It is not a cult.
Okay.
Where would you hear such things?
The internet.
From anywhere, actually.
Internet?
That kind of goes into, I like to ask people kind of like what their definition of a cult is.
Sure.
Because I feel like a lot of people just kind of throw that word around.
Should we Google it?
Yeah, Google it. Come on, what does Wikipedia say?
I think one of the definitions, I actually Googled it a couple months ago. One of the definitions is to hold a leader like as a god. Which I can tell you right now does not happen at Bethel. And the leaders don't ask for it. And I think that's part of the definition was like the leaders asked to be held as a god or Jesus.
So this is actually really interesting. A system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. So
that definition would...
I feel like Christianity would be a cult in that case.
Yeah, I was about to say...
So that's kind of... Whoops!
Now, there's a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. Well, that could be.
Well, that's why the Romans were persecuting the Christians, is because they thought they were like vampiric. They were taking the whole blood of Christ thing literally, and because they used the terms like brother and sister very liberally, they thought that they were incestuous. Because like someone could be your sister in Christ, and you're married to them. Right. So there was a lot of misinformation about Christianity at the time.
Well, maybe Google isn't always the right person.
Well, that wasn't Google. That was. Wait, actually, I think it was the Google Dictionary.
Let's talk. Here's a couple of components that I think of when I think of a cult. Okay, one is if you fall out of line, so to speak, with the main ideologies. Right. You are banished, punished, ridiculed. There's a high pressure for conformity. Usually one person has the main leading authority. So anyway, that's one component. I notice it's pretty common throughout cults that I've heard.
Yeah.
You find anything getting us closer?
Yeah, people. That's what I mean by like, a lot of people just kind of throw that word around. I'm like, well, what actually is a cult?
Right.
Because if you're calling Bethel a cult, then a lot of Christianity is a cult too. If you call Christianity a cult, then if you fall under Christianity, then you're in a cult.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that doesn't work then, obviously.
Right.
He's like, well, this specific thing makes you a cult. I'm like, what, you being offended about the Holy Spirit?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's all right.
Dude, this is really interesting to me. I'm reading this whole article about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Justin is.
Just it is now.
Yeah, pull some stuff up as it comes. But yeah. A lot of people that I hear that come out of a cult are like, if that thing or that group ended, they would not know what to do.
Yeah.
Like a loss for purpose or knowing who they are outside of the thing that they're a part of.
Right.
And then a lot of people too, if they do shift and they do want out of it, it's like there's a bunch of fear and all this stuff that, they feel like they can't.
Well, when we were talking about what a cult was earlier, one of the things I said was that it is exclusive.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Whereas Christianity in its purest form, in its pure, undefiled, non-human form.
Come.
Yeah, it's literally everyone
Yeah.
can be a Christian. There's no
Doesn't matter.
There's no exclusivity to it. There's no ranking system. That's another important thing too. I think in cults, you have a tendency to go towards some kind of ranking system. A good example is I don't know if you guys heard about Allison Mackey, I think, was in like a sex cult. No? Anyway, there's like all these details about it, and they had some kind of ranking system. I don't remember the details, but Mormonism also has a ranking system. Some kind of ranking system, a reason to keep people there,
Right.
as opposed to going elsewhere. Whereas Christianity is all about the choice, right? You can come in if you want, you can leave if you want.
Should be.
Yeah. Again, this is according to Scripture.
Right.
A church calling itself a Christian church could be a cult.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's not plausible or possible, and it's definitely happened. But that is a perversion.
Happening.
Yeah, and happening.
Yeah,
but that's a
say.
perversion of what Christianity is and who Christ is, and that shouldn't count.
Yeah.
But that is something that comes up a lot, is the question of, is Bethel like
Is
some kind
Bethel a
of
cult?
its own kind of
Right.
culty thing?
Yeah.
So
Well, I hear that from a lot of people. I actually had somebody, super funny. Before I went to first year, I had somebody warn me. He actually sent me an article.
they pulled you aside.
Oh, yeah. And they sent me an article. And my question to them, everybody who's like, yeah, they're a cult, at least most people. I know there's people who would say they're a cult, but I always ask, have you been?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if you haven't been, then I don't really know if you can judge it.
Yeah.
And so when people ask me, my first question is, have you ever been to Bethel?
Or do you know any Bethel leaders? Do you have any relationship with any people that have been a part of Bethel? That's another part that.
Well, I think a perfectly legitimate thing to point out could be like the belief system of people that teach at Bethel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a legitimate thing to bring up. Not necessarily when you're talking about whether or not it's a cult, but whether or not it's
Biblical.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's biblical. That being said, I don't know much about.
Their teachings.
Yeah. I'm not a headline grabber when it comes to Bethel, so I don't know much about Bethel in general.
Mm-hmm.
But
Which makes sense while you're asking the question.
right. So, but what would you say in response to that? Like, okay, well, maybe it's not a cult, but the teaching is not necessarily super biblical. Like, what would you say to that?
I have never heard so many scriptures said in my life before.
Yeah.
I think Bill uses more scripture than probably any preacher I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Chris also uses more scripture than I've ever heard. Dan Fairley, who is our Bible teacher, actually teaches about how the Bible should be interpreted and like all this and stuff, and they're very biblical.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to hear the verse or love to hear the message that people disagree with. There is one thing that Chris says that everybody freaks out about, which I'm like, I actually agree. He's like, God is bigger than his Bible. And I'm like, yeah, because if he could be in this small book, then that's a small God. And even talks about, I forgot what gospel, but it's like Jesus went around healing all these people, and if we wrote it down, we
Right.
couldn't have enough pages to write it down.
Yeah, the things that
Like,
he
we
did.
couldn't fill it up. And I was like, oh, maybe God is bigger than his book. And that's not saying, which this is where people get angry about it, it's
Right.
not saying let's do unbiblical stuff because God's bigger than the Bible.
Yeah.
It's no, if you see something like the video I showed him, which we need to show you, of it raining on stage and nothing getting wet, and you go, well, that never happened in the Bible or whatever, you're like, but that doesn't mean that it's not God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Before
means
Jesus spit in the dirt and rubbed mud on some guy's eye, that I don't think that had ever been done before,
Yeah, probably not.
or at least not in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can definitely see how people would misconstrue that statement, though, because, the idea is that the representation of God in the Bible is an accurate representation.
Right.
That it is a full, rounded view of his character.
Correct.
Right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so there's nothing in the, well, it goes both ways. There's nothing in the Bible that is not, or nothing in the Bible of God's actions, I should say, that is a inaccurate portrayal.
Right.
Then it goes both ways. So there's nothing that would happen now that would be at odds with what happened.
Yeah,
yeah,
contradiction.
you can't contradict.
Who he is. Yeah.
Dan Fairley always says it where he's like, there's anti-biblical and then there's biblical things that didn't happen in the Bible.
Right.
Where it's like, there's things that you look and you go, well, you can't just say that that's the spirit because you don't know what else to say. That's actually anti-biblical. And but there are things that happen now that weren't in the Bible, but you can look at it, you go, yeah, but that's biblical.
Yeah, it's a biblical, it portrays God in a biblical sense,
Yeah.
or whatever, however you want to say that. But
Like, you do not get to contradict his character.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
I never seen that, never heard it from Bill or Chris, and I heard them probably twice a week each
Yeah.
month. And I
Yeah.
heard Dan every single day.
Yeah.
So I never heard anything that was anti-biblical.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and see, like that makes me think of that scripture that talks about, can't remember which disciples it was, but it says they knew that they had been with Jesus. It was like there was something about those guys that they knew that they had been with Jesus because of the way they were, like how they were acting, like they just knew, like, this guy's been with that guy. They're filled with life. And the Bible talks about the fruit. You'll know people by their fruit.
yeah.
So for me, that's a huge identifying mark. That's how I open up to people, really. Like I start off, okay, this is an acquaintance, and what's the fruit in your life? I might open up to people in a different respect, but if I'm going to give them place, like to speak in, or if trust is established, like fruit is huge.
Yeah.
You can't, I don't feel like we can, there's a level of changing we can do on our own, but I think like those huge transformations of like this person used to be angry all the time, now they're just full of joy. It's not artificial. They're legitly happy about life and they're not angry. Like you can't flip that switch all by yourself. Those are things that happen, I believe, as a result of like hanging out with God, receiving his truth, receiving his love, and so when you're around people that have that fruit, that have that product evident in their life, like that speaks so loud to me. So even if you're, your truth might, I think, to be honest, like everybody's truth is, there's places where we're off a bit, you know what I mean? Like that we're unaware of right now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, somebody in the world is right about everything, which is ridiculous, I think,
Yeah.
So like you're gonna bump up against those things where you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure about that one, and I can overlook that because the fruit in your life is benefiting me. It's making me feel like a better person,
Yeah, and I can tell you, like I said at the beginning of this, I'm completely changed, and it's not, and it is like it is because of Bethel, but it's because of Jesus.
Yeah.
And like that's what I got at Bethel. Like it's not, you don't get this weird like they trick ya or something. Like you get Jesus.
Yeah, like you're not going back because you feel like I need Bethel now.
No, I need more of Jesus. That's it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like at the end of the year, I'm like I spent $5,000 to fall in love with Jesus more, and that's worth it.
Sure.
And it's like it's not Bethel that I want. It's Jesus. And they have a image of Jesus that I don't have. And that's what they're going to try to, basically give me. And I'm going to receive it in the same way as that I have an image of Jesus that you guys don't have.
Right.
And that's why when we come together and we talk about Jesus, it's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. And that's the same thing with Bethel, where it's like you guys have an image of Jesus. You've seen a side of Jesus that I haven't. And I would love to see that. So could you help me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that's what it is. And like you talk about fruit, and like my mentor always said, I love this line. He's like, oftentimes people try to tape up fruit to a dead tree, and it's like, and it won't last because you actually need to abide in Jesus to get real fruit.
Yeah.
And like that's how, like Stevie talked about, like that's how you tell people are changed. Like that's how I told I was changed. Like I was like, oh, I'm actually loving people more. Without me trying. Like I stopped striving. I stopped trying to make my own fruit and just letting me be with Jesus and him giving me fruit,
Yeah.
out of my life. And like, I can see it in my life and I'm like, I got Jesus, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that quote from, I think it's attributed to St. Francis, but they don't know if he was really the founder of it. But it says, preach the good news of the gospel at all times. Use words when necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like your life should radiate the message of the gospel. If you're really falling in love with Jesus, you're really living a life that's growing with God, then your life is going to speak more than your words can. You
Yeah.
know? Not that you shouldn't use words, but yeah. I've been to Bethel 3 or 4 times, and that's been my experience. And I was skeptical when I first went, but just that you can't fake love. I've been around a lot of different people that talked about how good at love they were, or they hugged people, or there's just like when it's genuine, you can tell.
Yeah.
When it's real, and I watch people. I've always been kind of a people watcher. Like I like to watch what do people do when they don't think anybody else is looking.
Yeah.
Because you can really tell where someone's at. And I mean, you just can't fake it. And the leadership that I've seen at Bethel is just, again, they've got stuff that I'm like, I want more of that. So I would packing up the fam and going with you. No, not really, but that'd be fun.
See, if I had money, I would pay for you.
I would visit again.
Yeah, he visited me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went on a road trip. And then,
Oh, yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't get to come to first year, though.
Did I not?
No, you didn't.
I went to second year
Went to
and
second
third year.
And third year.
Yeah.
And not first year.
Are you sure?
But we
No,
got
I went
coffee.
to first year. I
Did you?
did. Yeah. You guys.
I was gone.
Your team was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a whole day that first year.
How did you like first year? didn't
I
ask
liked
you.
everything I went to. There wasn't anything I was like, oh man, I should have stayed home today at the hotel.
Well, that sucks.
No, I loved everything. I don't remember like specifically, what day what happened, but
Were you getting crunk? What's going on?
I got crunked.
In the
Man,
spirit.
crunktified. I don't even know what that word means, but I feel like it happened. You know
It
what I'm
happened to
saying?
you? Yeah.
Oh, dude, it happened to me before I got there, and then it happened more when I was there.
Oh, the things.
Yeah,
Oh, all the things.
crunked.
That super great old meme, the all the things meme. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Do all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what happens at PSSM.
Yeah.
All of the things
yeah.
Sweet.
you could think of.
As a side note, if there was a job that was a meme historian,
Yeah.
I would just kill it.
You would.
I would kill that job.
If anybody out there is looking for someone to hire as a meme historian, this is your guy.
This is
Hey,
your guy.
I want you to talk about McDonald's peoples.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So
bring it up.
a while ago, I was traveling to Ventura with my lovely wife, and we stopped in Reading at McDonald's, I believe. And our impression of Reading was that it was a nice city. I think there are palm trees there.
There
for
are.
some reason,
There are.
There are.
which I could not figure
On
out.
down one road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why are there
I
palm
lived
trees
on.
here?
I lived on that road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think our hotel was on there.
Yeah, that's
But-
where like all the hotels are too.
Yeah. So I think we stopped at McDonald's, and we have friends that go to Bethel, and so we asked the people at McDonald's about Bethel, and their response was pretty negative. It was kind of, ugh, yeah, those guys, like, they come in here and they try to talk about stuff, and we're like, excuse me, we're here to work at McDonald's. Like, what are you doing? And yeah, they just get up in
We
everybody's business.
saturate you with fat. You do not saturate us with your words.
You idiots. But yeah, like the impression they had was they just come in here and they mess with people and make them leave because they're like, I don't want to be abused by all of these people. Like, I'm just here to eat my food at McDonald's.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And so
I can relate to that.
They make people leave, and so all the McDonald's staff were like, "Ugh, no, ew, ugh." Yeah, that was my first experience with Bethel.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's not a good one.
no,
Yeah.
Speak to that.
I'll speak to that. It's probably first years. Just gonna call us out.
throw them under the bus,
Yeah,
man.
no, I'll throw some of them under the bus. You want name? No, I'm joking.
Yes,
Um,
name drop.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, like if I said 10 people who most likely were the ones, you
I
probably
actually-
would know.
No, I actually wouldn't know. I don't have any friends that would do that, but I do know. I have heard stories. I've heard stories. Of first years.
Share the tea. Spill it.
I have no tea. I have no tea. No, but basically, yeah, I feel like a lot of the times we tried to, well, at least in first year, a lot of people are really zealous for God. And they just tasted something new and they want to go out and they want to share it as much as possible. And I'm like, good on ya. But there's got to be a way to do it through love. And like something I think a lot of the times people do, Christians in general. I know I'm kind of coming after first years and BSSM in general, but I mean,
It's a common thing.
yeah,
that's
it's a
known.
common thing. I mean,
I
Bethel,
think even the teachers in first year know this.
yeah, and like Reading is saturated with a bunch of students. Like that's just true.
Yeah.
Like, but you know, they try to, you know, convert people before loving people.
Yeah.
Is what I think a lot of Christians do. And so they want, like, it comes from a pure heart. And it comes from this idea of being so, you know, zealous for God, and you want to save as many people as possible and all this. But I think sometimes people forget to just love instead of trying to get somebody to become a Christian. And just like this idea of, you know, loving them for loving them. Instead of loving them for something you can get. You know, I heard this one guy.
You know, like, yeah, these souls are becoming another notch.
Yeah, like,
on
oh,
your
here's another testimony.
Brought 10 more
Yeah.
to the family of God today.
Like, here's how many testimonies I have about saving people, and I'm like, okay, cool. You know, how many did you
Yeah.
love? You know,
The Salvation Army is very much like that. Like, I worked at a Salvation Army camp for many years, and I loved it so much. But one of the things I did not like is like this corporate element. Like at the end of the week, you were supposed to like get all the kids that converted
Right.
to Christianity, and you were supposed to like take a tally. It's like, so,
Yeah.
so this camp saved over the course of a summer, they saved 500 kids
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's like, it's such BS because these kids are like, you know, between like 8 and 12 years old. Like, not all of them know what that
Yeah.
even means. And so they're saying yes to something. They're like, oh man, I feel good in this moment. And so I'm just going to ride that wave, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not a super coherent decision.
Right.
But yeah, just kind of like you were saying, like notches in your belt, like, oh wow, like we can feel good about you. There's some board meeting somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, what about that camp that we have? Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like right now? Oh well, last year we saved this many kids. Wow, what a great job,
Yeah.
everybody.
Well,
you
it
know,
gets uglier than that. It's like, okay, at this fundraiser, we need to have those numbers in because we want our
Exactly, yeah.
donors to know exactly how many
Yeah.
souls
Yeah.
their dollars are worth.
It's
Yeah,
so
so BS.
so
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, it's just it comes from a pure heart of most of the time. Obviously there's people who are like, here's another testimony of me saving another person, and that's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
But there's people who pure heart, and I had this one guy I talked to, an atheist guy. He was like hurt by the church and all this, and he was in Reading, and he talked about how BSSM students would try to prophesy over him over and over, and he would be like, I got work, I gotta go. And then they would continue to do it. And he said one time, he was like, and sometimes I just let him do it because it felt like it was more for them than for me. And you're like, ugh.
It's so messed up.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
That this person, what they're getting from you is that you want to give them a prophetic word because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It's so funny because like you guys both go, ugh, and there's something beautiful I find in it on the atheist side where I'm like, that is such a father heart.
Oh,
you know
I
what
mean,
I mean?
yeah.
Like to all right, kids, you're way off here, but I'm gonna let you do it because it's fun for you.
Yeah.
But
I'm
it's
gonna
just
let you
like-
have this one.
Yeah.
It was called to prophesy is to be edifying, and we're called to edify others, and we're called to love others, and like that's not really that edifying
Right.
to have somebody be like, you know what, this is more for you. You can have it.
Yeah.
Tell me give me a prophetic word. Edify me to edify yourself is what it is. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to edify you to edify myself.
It reminds me of like my kids, especially, maybe when they're 6 and under. There's always these little projects that happen or something that I need to do. Like we're putting the deck together, and my 2.5-year-old son's like, I help you, Daddy, I help you. And he goes and gets this plastic hammer, and now like he's stepping on the pile of wood that I need to grab from. He's smashing this thing against something else. It's super cute. His heart means well. He really does want to help me, but he's making my job a lot harder. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think they have a good heart. They're just, there's growing up and stuff that just happens, and you realize like, oh, like I wasn't. People should never be a project.
Yeah, come on, say it again.
Yeah,
Come on.
They never should be like the thing that you're trying to do.
Trying to fix.
Yeah.
We love fixing people.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you leave that up to Jesus? Because
Yeah.
he does a good job at it,
Right.
actually.
Daddy, I help you.
Yeah. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't try to fix, and it's the same thing. Like, there's a lot to do with identity. And, like, I'm saying all of this because I've experienced it, me doing it.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm coming at people because I'm like, oh, I'm just been set free from it. And it's like, and if you, like your identity, if it's not rooted in God, it's not rooted in Jesus, then you're going to try to find your way to feel good about yourself. And Christians are very good at making other Christians feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's called to edify others, like we said. But when somebody knows they can get edification, through giving a prophetic word, they're going to do it to feel good about themselves.
Right. Well, I think I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily because the word edify, like for instance, like a carrot will edify you. You might not enjoy a carrot. You might be like, I want a milkshake. Right?
Right.
A milkshake feels better than a carrot.
Right.
But the carrot is good for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And the milkshake is not. So
I think
there's-
of approval. Like when you're talking of like I'll get pats on the back. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
I'll be like, look at me, like, and people are like, wow, you're such an awesome person that hears from the Lord. And you're like, yes. Is that kind of what you
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's this idea of like, if I do this, then I'll get approval, or I'll do this and I'll get accepted, or I'll do this and I'll get my identity from people.
Right.
And Ben Armstrong always says, we prophesy from identity, not for identity.
Yeah.
And you're like, there it is. There it is, right there. That's
Yeah.
it. You have to prophesy from identity and God, not for identity.
Yeah, and I think doing everything, like loving people from who you are in the Lord,
Yeah.
not for the Lord.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing this for the Lord, so I can get a notch on my belt.
Yeah. It's just these like spiritual gifts, I think oftentimes, we use them as like, look at me. I can
Yep.
prophesy. I can do words of knowledge. I can speak in tongues. I can see in the spirit.
Right.
All of this. Look at me.
Look, my relationship with God is so much stronger
Yeah.
because I can speak in tongues.
Well, and see, then your gifts have nothing to do with your relationship with the Lord.
No.
They're gifts.
It's about
Yeah.
the fruit,
Yeah.
which you talked about.
Yeah.
It's about, it's like, at the end of the day, like, you should have more of Jesus, and then everything else will actually kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
It actually says that in the Bible, if you
Yeah.
read it. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. And if you read before, all those things that were added to you are all great things.
Yeah.
I forgot exactly the scripture, but I do know that part. But, like, you follow
I think it
Jesus.
says all these things and besides or something like that. It's like implies it's all these things and then some.
Yeah, it's like you will get all these things if you abide in Jesus. That could be wealth. That could be, not wealth. Like you talked about, like one of my favorite, this preacher, his name was Jay Fallon, and a guy in Scotland actually, mission trip I got to go on through Bethel, and he talked about how Job had the favor of God, and Paul had the favor of God, and all these things, and he goes, do you want the favor of God? He was like, Paul was locked in jail, and he went on all these things that were terrible that happened to him, and go, but they still had the favor of God. Like, do you want it? And then that's one of those things where it's like, we, a lot of the times we can get over. I do think, hear me, I do think God wants to bless you financially, 100%. But I do also think that if you only preach that, then it sometimes is hard to suffer. And I do think you have to suffer for the kingdom sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an oversimplification, which we already talked about. Like, does God want you to have wealth? Sure, but it depends on you. Like, it depends on who you are and what you're gonna do with that. Like, I forget their names, but the couple in the New Testament, they were talking to, I want to say Peter,
Ananias is
Ananias and Sapphira.
Yeah.
And he saw through their heart, and he made a requirement, and they were trying to fake their way through it, right? It was like they were enamored with their wealth, and he saw that, and so he asked them to give it up, and they pretended to. And I think they both died, right?
Yeah,
They both
did.
got-
They both died.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
both got killed.
So in that instance,
My God.
right, like that was a stumbling block for them that they did not get over.
Right.
So to assume that God wants everybody to have money, and as soon as they're following him, they'll get more money. That's an oversimplification.
Yeah.
But
He does want to bless
Well,
us.
and wealth. I mean, wealth speaks. Yeah, wealth speaks so much more than just money. But
Yeah.
that's definitely part of it.
also, again, off
Yes.
topic.
Yeah.
I do this.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on the theory that the book of Job is a parable?
Oh, I did hear about that. A lot of the times with these things, I'm like, either way you believe is fine with me.
Sure.
Job was actually dated before Moses,
Yep.
which is another interesting. So that's why people think it's a parable.
Well, also the convenience of the story, because like
Yeah.
there's a lot of numbers that are very convenient to, I guess, Jewish history and stuff. So the number of kids that he had, and so on and so forth, they were significant numbers.
Yeah.
And so the idea being that this was a story that they were using
To
illustrate something, right?
Yeah.
And I find the whole thing super fascinating because I've read some other Jewish folk tales, almost, if you want to put it, like the book of Tobit. Have you guys read that?
I haven't read it, but I heard of it.
It's in the Apocrypha. I think it's in the Catholic Bible.
Oh, maybe I
so,
have
So
read it.
they view it as being canonical.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But it's just like a series of random stuff. Something about a fish and like a liver. I don't know. But a demon. But anyways, kind of what my takeaway from it is, when Jesus tells a parable, right? We don't think that the parable is true.
Yeah.
He tells it as a story,
Right.
right? And we're supposed to glean truth from it.
Right.
So why would
How artistic.
why would the book of Job be different? Like the Bible's full of those.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, I don't think it disqualifies it from being, like you said, edifying, right? Or informative, just because it's a parable.
Yeah, we really don't know. I mean, that's a great question. We really don't know what parts of the Bible that might be happening in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the apple, the fruit,
Yeah.
the serpent. You know what I mean? Like, are these pictures? Was it a real snake? You know what I mean? Like,
I
who
have so
knows?
many questions.
Yeah, but and yeah, good luck with that, right? Like,
Yeah.
hopefully, we'll get them answered one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but I know like there's even these quick parts. Like there's a part in the Bible when Jesus talks about it's easier for a rich man to pass through the eye of a needle than to enter into the kingdom of heaven. You know that
Yeah.
one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think he said it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
Which
so
there's disagreement as to what that means, right? Because
well, if you do the history, it's actually pretty clear what it means. But if you don't know the history, you don't know what he's talking about.
right.
Yeah. So there is a gate
Yeah.
around the wall in Jerusalem. I could be butchering some of this, but one of the gates is called the Eye of the Needle, and it's an opening into Jerusalem that's really hard to get to. And like rich people were known, like if you had some money, you'd have a camel, you might have one bag. Rich people would have multiple camels with 2 bags. It's a low door, so a lot of times you'd have to lead your camel through kneeling.
Right.
Yeah.
If you had double bags, you had to take all the bags off. Like, it's a lot of work if you had more stuff to pass through the eye of the needle, you know? But we read that today, and it's like, oh, that's crazy. That's really hard to force a camel through the eye of a needle. So rich people are screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's impossible.
But
Yeah.
Jesus was talking about specific, you know? So, I mean, the scriptures are so deep, you know?
Yeah.
And like you brought up the number thing. Hebrew and Greek are 2 of the only languages that have numerical values to every letter of their language, you know, and every word. And like, there's numerical values that mean other things, you know,
Yeah.
when you get to like numerology or whatever.
Well, like even the idea behind 666, right? And how some Bibles put it as 616. There's reasoning behind that. Even though it's a mistranslation, they're doing it from different number logics, right? So, but yeah, like the idea that number, the significance of that number. So the idea being that the number 7 is the number of completion, right?
Yeah.
It's the number of, and the theory of, you know, that's why there's 7 days in a week, is because at the end of the 6 days of labor, there was 1 day of rest upon completion of the creation of the
Yeah.
world. And so the number 6 is right before that.
Yeah.
So it's not quite there.
Yeah.
And then the idea that you add to that, right? So you get 3 6s, still not even 1 7, right? And then, But anyways, the whole number thing is like in the book of Job, especially, is very convenient, like the order of events and so on.
There's pictures associated to every letter too. I don't know if that's true in Greek, but it's definitely true in Hebrew.
Interesting. I
There's
didn't know that.
images associated with every letter.
Really?
So yeah, if you break down the word shalom, which is peace, which actually means wellness, it doesn't mean, you know, feel in a calm, relaxed state.
Yeah.
You know, wellness, like mind, body, soul, spirit, like full. So when Jesus said go in peace after he healed someone, he was saying, be healed, all of you. Like,
Yeah.
all
Like-
of you be well.
Come
Like
on.
you're healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the word shalom is super, super tight, and I'm going to get some of this wrong. But in the middle of the word shalom, the 2 characters that are exactly like center in the word is water and fire. And then on the edges, there's the shepherd's staff is one of the images to one of the letters, and then a hook. And basically, like when you break the word shalom down, it's bringing 2 opposites together. Like that's what makes the word. It's like you're bringing water and fire together in a covenant, you know.
Wow.
And that makes the word peace, like or shalom in
Yeah.
Hebrew. I mean, that stuff is so cool.
That's crazy.
you
Yeah.
know? So much that in one word, but
Yeah.
anyway.
We talk about if Job is a parable. I think a lot of people are afraid to like you kind of talked about where Jesus talked about all these parables. Why can't this be one?
Yeah.
Is because if we viewed it as history for a lot of years, then we're afraid to change it as a parable. And like something that I've really learned is like God's not fragile, Jesus isn't fragile, Bible's not fragile, and you can see it in the New Testament over and over. Jesus is not afraid to be misunderstood, and God's not either, and the Holy Spirit isn't either. And so it's like you can read through the Bible and misunderstand almost all of it. I mean, you could misunderstand all of it, and God and Jesus would not be afraid of you. They would be like, oh, yeah, he'll find me.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, I mean, like, my favorite story, we love it, the communion. But if you really think about it, like, Jesus said, we look back at it now and we're like, oh, yeah, drink of his body, drink of his blood and eat his body. Like, like, that's normal stuff to us now because we get it.
No, it still weirds me out a little bit when I think about it.
But yeah, but if you really think about it,
Weirded the Romans out.
he, like, literally was like, eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, and then stopped and just was like,
I don't need to explain this to you.
I'm not going to explain it.
And
Misunderstand me, please.
Yeah.
Like,
That has
I'm
not
actually
been-
going to make it so easy for you to misunderstand me.
Yeah. I mean, there was some context to that, right? Because of the history of the lamb and whatnot.
Right, yeah, and they were doing Passover supper, yeah.
But he was purposefully aligning himself with the sacrificial lamb, and that had to make them nervous. Because
Yeah.
they're like, what is this dude talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that's
everybody
off.
left.
It's
and
weird.
he
Yeah.
did that. He did that the whole time. Like, it was
Yeah.
crazy because people would be like, "You're the Son of God," and he would always, like, when people would come with that stuff, he'd always be like, kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but he'd never come out and be like, "Yep, you are correct," or like Peter, he did, but when it was public, he was like, I just do the will of the Father. He always put the Father ahead of himself. But then he would do these outrageous prophetic proclamations, go to the synagogue, and it just happens to be Isaiah 61 that day, right? Because they had a scroll.
Reads the scroll.
They had a scroll, and it was on a cycle, right? So whatever part it was rolled to, like, you read the whole thing in succession over time.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. And that's why that was such a huge moment. Like,
Yeah.
he walks up to read the passage in the synagogue, and it's Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, to preach the good news, and goes on and on and on, and then rolls up the scroll. Today the scripture's been fulfilled. And goes and sits down, like, I'm the one.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, and so when you talk about that, like, a lot of the times people are afraid to have conversations about the Bible because they're like, well, let's not misunderstand God here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't think he's afraid of you
Yeah.
at all, actually. I'm like, I love these discussions about the Bible because it's like,
yeah,
it's not that fragile.
why
Like, just
are
because
you...
I don't believe this one part is history, like, Genesis is a big one. People are like, you need to believe all of Genesis, or the rest of the Bible, why would you believe the rest of the Bible if you don't believe Genesis?
Right.
And I'm like, no, it's not that way.
Sure.
I don't think it's that way. I'm like, if you don't think Genesis is history, for one, it's still true.
Well, I would agree with you to a point. I think some of it has to be history to logically make sense because there's lots of genealogy.
Yeah.
And if the genealogy isn't accurate, Jesus is not in the line that he claims to be.
Yeah, so there's certain aspects that are like...
Yeah, so some of it has to be accurate or else the whole rest of the Bible means nothing.
But a
and we're all
genealogy
wasting our
is
time.
obviously not a part that could be misconstrued as like, oh, this is actually a
Oh,
parable.
this genealogy
This
is a
actually a
parable.
parable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just one of the. It's
Yeah.
so funny to me how Christians get so scared of, like, and you mentioned it earlier today, where it's like we get scared of science. I'm like, yeah, why?
Yeah.
If you're afraid that something's going to come out and prove your God doesn't exist, then you need to follow a different one.
You're not. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not secure in your belief.
Yeah, you want truth or you don't want truth.
A good friend, I believe, of ours, Charlie
Yeah.
Bufford, I believe, said
Yeah.
this, is that when you hold an idea in your hand open, it can come and go like a bird, right? it will sustain itself, and it will always come back to your hand if it's open. Mm-hmm. If you close your hand when the bird is in it, it will die. Mm-hmm. And if you close the hand when the bird is away, it's going to go to another hand, right? Yeah. So the idea being that you can't just grab hold of one idea and then leave it in your hand. Yeah. You can't, or I guess a better way to put it is you have to be flexible. You have to be okay with the idea that you're wrong. And explore that avenue, like, okay, let's go down, let's do a thought experiment. But people don't really do that.
Well, that's scary too.
I really doubt people's hunger for truth when they don't do that.
Sure.
Yeah. If you're, some people are hungry to be right, and that's just a different thing.
That's a word.
Yeah. You're either hungry to be right, and then you want to debate so you can either look, show people how smart you are, or just, show everybody that you're right. It's an ego thing. But like people that are hungry for truth, they're on this journey. They're on a search. And a lot of people are on that search. They don't know who Jesus is. Yeah. But Jesus might already be speaking to him. Probably is. Probably, there's already things going on where they're being led, along their journey. And something that I think about is like when you're a kid, oh man, this makes me so excited. Speaking of Genesis, you can open up Genesis, and from the beginning, like when God begins to start talking like to Abraham or talks to Moses, there's all these, he engages their sense of wonder. He's like, Abraham, go look at the stars. Whoa, massive stars. Count them. Oh, that's impossible. How'd I ever count them? That's how many descendants you're going to have, Abraham. Yeah. I'm going to show you a city like that you've never seen before. Yeah, and he's like, what? He's like, leave your house. I'm going to take you on this journey. And when you're a kid, like, wonder isn't hard to do. You do it all the time. But when we're adults, it's like, now we have to know stuff. Like we lose our sense of wonder. And that, to me, is like, God is... It's super scriptural that God values wonder highly. I think it was Albert Einstein said, my sense of God's presence is my sense of wonder. That was a quote that Albert Einstein had, which I thought was cool. I don't know what his relationship was like with God, but, like...
I think he was deistic. Like he thought, like, God created everything, and then he was like, hands off.
Oh, okay.
Like it was like a clock, right? The idea that he set it going and then left it. Like he doesn't intervene. And his whole, Einstein's, to my knowledge, his whole thought process on humans is they were a mistake. And that all of nature is amazing. The way that the universe works in tandem is incredible and worthy of study. Humans, not so much.
Right.
But
interesting. But he had that quote, about the wonder. And so there's, this adventurous piece, that he valued. But I think that's huge. Like, you got to allow yourself to wonder. You got to, which is why we love music so much, is it engages our imagination and our feelings and leads us into this world that is bigger than what we see, and it's felt. And to be honest, like, I love to read the scripture like that, maybe not the genealogies, like sometimes, just confession, like, Leviticus, come on already. Like, that's too much.
Under the law.
Yeah. But so there's definitely like historical parts, but like so much of it is, I love to just engage my relationship with God with that sense of wonder. Yeah. Like a little kid,
Yeah. And it's, you get to the age, teenager, where you actually think you know everything.
That happened to you too, huh?
It happened to me. It happened to everybody, I think, right?
Probably.
Did it happen to you?
No.
Ah, dang
Never.
it.
No, I just kept waiting to see if that season would pass, but I just realized I was right.
I just don't know everything.
I did know everything.
Yeah, no, and you kind of talk about that, I forgot where you just kind of try to prove everything that you believe as correct. So you get prideful, and I did it. And then I came back from Bethel knowing I know nothing. So, amen for that. I got saved.
That still happens to me. It's just a lot less often.
Yeah,
which is growth.
I thought I knew.
I give myself my own patty cake.
I got you.
I have a growth.
Okay.
Not the same thing. Not the same thing.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Gross is not always good.
Oh, jeez. Okay, guys. Hey. Come on. But just talking about how, having that wonder and having that mystery of God still and knowing I know nothing. I know nothing of God, basically. I know, and I say this all the time. I know what I know, and I really don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really don't, I know, nothing, basically nothing of God. And that's what makes me go, yeah, there's a God, and he's big, and he's mighty. Because I still have mystery every single day, of being like, I am alive. Thank you. Don't know how that happened. I don't even, our body. Our body, it just works.
Yeah.
And then we just take it for granted. We're like, oh, yeah, we just woke up, and we're breathing.
Yeah.
And,
While we're spinning, I don't remember how fast, on this planet that's floating exactly where it really needs to be.
Yeah.
Far enough from the sun to keep us warm. But
What if the Earth is flat?
come on. Next episode.
No. No, we're not talking about Earth flat. Flat earthers.
There are flat believers.
Flat
I know
earthers,
there's
flat
flat
earthers,
No
yes.
one here, though.
Not right now.
Good.
Not right
You
now.
don't know that.
Justin, do you believe that's flat?
Come on.
Dude, actually, there might be some people watching this podcast that do think that.
Oh, flat earthers?
Flat earthers. Maybe we'll have them in.
I would go with it.
I just...
See, I am open to the idea that I am wrong.
Oh, look at that.
Or like the moon landings.
Oh, they're fake.
All of them?
No, I'm joking. I really think they're all
if,
true.
If any of them are fake, it's the first one. But that's a whole other conversation.
I don't think they're fake.
I don't think so either.
I don't either.
I think it's implausible that they're fake. But if any of them are fake,
It's the
the
first one.
most logic goes into the first one.
Well, because we were just trying to kind of...
We wanted to beat everybody
We're
else so bad.
Hey,
So
Russia.
This is, I mean, that ideal, that it's so, yes, Americans. That is us.
Yeah, we love to be individualistic and be the best.
And that's why we can't, that's why a lot of us do freak out, because we can't be wrong.
Yeah.
I remember.
Because we're American.
That's what really messed me up, man. I was growing up, the textbooks, and you're getting American history, and you're like, oh man, we're awesome. We do everything right all the
Dude,
time.
the way that we paint everything
Yeah.
Oh, my
makes me
goodness.
so angry.
Yeah.
Even the way that we paint Abraham Lincoln
Yeah.
pisses me off. Because he was racist too. He thought that black people shouldn't be in America, and that's why he wanted to just get rid of them.
Oh, really?
He wanted to ship them off.
Oh,
he
see, I didn't know that.
thought if they served no practical purpose, then we would just get rid of them.
So then what happened? It was all political for the
Yeah, of course.
So just for the approval of people, he took that political view?
Yes, the idea being
Leave it
that
to Justin, man. He's opening up so many
I was about
cans.
to say,
Abraham
what?
Lincoln was not a good guy. But
Wow.
But that being said, there were politicians.
I'm offended.
That
I mean,
were,
he's going at my hero. One of my heroes.
yeah.
Oh, no, we love painting American history as, we didn't
We whitewash
pillage
it.
and rape Native
Yes,
Americans.
we whitewash it.
I heard this.
There's a reservation. That should make everything
this
better. You can build a
sentence.
casino.
I forgot who. I think it was David Hogan, who... Do you guys know who David Hogan is?
Yeah, he's crazy.
He's the most wild guy. But he was like...
He brings dead people back to life.
Yeah,
Well,
500.
Jesus does it through him, but...
Yeah, 500 people.
Whoa, that
Is he related to Hulk Hogan?
No,
No, but
unfortunately not.
you don't know for sure.
But he had this quote where he talked about he was in Africa, I think. Anyway, he basically was
The continent that all of the other continents could fit inside of, according to the South African president Zuma.
oh, Jesus.
Just keep going, man.
Anyway,
It's an art to ignore
yeah, it's
Justin.
an art. And so
It is.
he just kind of
Allie's perfected
David
it.
was talking about it where he was like, "Oh yeah, then white people came in and they set up settlements, or as the locals like to call it, pillage and rape people." And you're like, "Oh, jeez."
Well, anytime
no.
an armed force goes somewhere, there's usually a lot of raping and pillaging.
Yeah.
That being said, though, World War II seemed to be a lot of the time an exception, but that's a whole other conversation.
There's
The sad
this
part is when
meme.
we do it we're bringing them Jesus. But how come anyway. I mean, we still say we discovered America. That's how arrogant we are. Your
Yeah.
book
Wait,
already
Who's
said
we? Who's we?
Americans.
Christopher Columbus.
he didn't even go to North America, right? Or if he did, it was like
wasn't it the?
I'm pretty sure he just went to South America.
Central Islands, maybe. or
Yeah, he
something?
went to.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He discovered the Americas.
Yeah,
just by
the
landing on an
Americas.
island.
I don't think he even went to. I don't think he went.
But
to North
either
America.
way, like that's like the big picture. That's I mean, most anybody I would imagine that you ask, is probably gonna credit, Christopher Columbus with discovering the Americas. Maybe
Sure.
I'm wrong, but that's what I learned.
That's what
Well,
I.
In
That's
the
what I was
same
taught.
book, several times it said that these people were on,
Right.
Our land.
the land that we discovered. Now, I
Right.
don't know. I'm
Well, it depends.
15. I get like not everything's working up here, but I was pretty sure that doesn't really work.
But
Well,
they were
no.
on our land.
I think,
yeah, this is our land.
This is my house. What are you talking about? I've lived
think-
here for 10 years.
well,
No, I
there's-
just discovered it now.
there's logic behind the statement because the Western world discovered the Americas, right? So it's
Did
like
they say that though? That's not what the books
no,
taught
no, no,
me.
no, no, no. I'm just saying.
No one was
It's
taught that.
over time.
Yeah.
Stuff gets.
Diluted.
No,
Yeah.
they said it how they wanted to say it. Like that's
Oh,
how
yeah.
yeah. They say
Yeah.
and that's anyway, that's my problem.
Americans love to be like, we were indoctrinated. I'm like,
But we know we were wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I can't respect you
Yeah.
if you make a mistake and you can't own it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because you're nervous that you're not going to have as many voters or,
I think you just described America.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I know.
Do you know where you live?
I think he does.
Yeah,
I
good,
do.
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Like,
just,
do you
yeah.
understand that?
I
that's,
do, and probably a lot of people be mad at me, but
No, why would they get mad at you?
because
Because
for
going
some
after
reason
the
you're supposed to have this
country.
weird devotion to people even when they lie and don't admit when they're wrong.
No, I don't think anybody actually
Nationalism.
has that.
Uh-huh.
I think that we are, and maybe I've talked about this.
Maybe
We
let's hear
get when we're kids, we get syringed with patriotism, or I'm gonna say patriotism. And there are
Nation-
quotes on that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what they were doing.
The idea that, like, for instance, nobody can tell
pledge
me why we
allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag before school. Nobody's ever been able to give me a good answer for that
Because nobody has one.
because there's no good reason to.
There is no good reason.
The state is not responsible for your education. Like, they can pay for it. They can endorse a certain education
Now
method.
you were opening cans, now you're dropping bombs.
I know. But
Come on, go.
up till recently,
Yeah.
that a state-run education system was not something that anybody did. And you know what? The world got along just fine. The Enlightenment happened without a public education system.
Hey.
So,
No, I think it's funny. And then Christians, which I'll come after their heads right now.
Are we trying to make any friends here?
No.
I think we're trying to lose them all.
Yeah, yeah.
I
mean,
love you guys.
Our 4 viewers will hear this.
All of the foreign atheists that watch this podcast will be like, "Way to go, guys!"
Yeah. No, I'm like, but like the Christians, we have so much patriotism again.
Yeah.
I'll use that word.
a good one.
And we're like, I pledge allegiance to the flag. I'm like, yeah, you should pledge allegiance to Jesus actually first.
Yeah.
Because he has your
Well,
allegiance and not a a
statement
political
is-
party or a state or a country. But no, Jesus is the one
Right.
that's supposed to have it.
Well, I think the answer to that would be it's pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. What's the next part, Stevie? I haven't said it in so long.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, on which it stands.
One nation under God,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That I think is supposed to exonerate any kind of guilt that you may have for pledging allegiance to a nation.
Right.
It's like, well, it's under God, guys.
Yeah.
You know that God comes first, and then the nation. Jeez.
But not, like that's not true.
no.
That's not true. When was the last time
I
in
mean-
America it was like God comes first?
Well,
It's
I
been a
think
while.
The statement is true in the sense that God is above America in
Yeah.
terms of importance. God is above America in terms of hierarchy. God is above America in terms of dominance. Watch the fact that He's watching over.
Yeah.
You know, all of that. All that's true. But America is not a Christian nation, and it hasn't. If it was ever, it has not been in a long time.
No, it hasn't. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were like, our founding fathers were Christian. I was like, maybe.
Some of them might have been a little bit.
That's why I said maybe. Maybe.
But I think that there was flaws. So like, for instance, the emphasis on the Mosaic on I don't know, the way that we approach laws, it came from the Ten Commandments, right? So that part came through. But just the way that we approach as America, as a thing, the way that we approach all kinds of topics, right, from the beginning was flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about it before. I mean, even the way we set up the political system is like, hey, we're all buddies. We just fought this war and defeated our enemy.
Right.
Now let's rally against each other in this huge campaign.
Right.
And like whoever gets the most votes wins. And when we hate each other, then we'll come back together and work together on how to build like the proper policies for our nation.
Well, that's the party platform. That's been around since before America. And that wasn't a founding fathers thing. As I recall, the second president was hugely against parties. He thought they were bogus.
John Adams?
I want to say it was John Adams.
Go, John.
Yeah. Or Sam.
Add a few.
Which one was first, John or Sam? I don't remember. I don't remember which one was
You've
which.
You've had a few too
It's-
many
it's-
Sams.
Yeah.
It's just funny, especially with the political parties. You know, it all go back. I'm gonna go back to identity, as I love to do.
Okay, let's
and
go
it all
that
goes
far.
back to identity. And I feel like a lot of the times, you know, again, coming after Christians, because I am one, but kind of like a lot of the times we love to be like, I'm a Republican.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a, you know, da 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 da, whatever. You can go on forever, you know. And I'm like,
yeah, but Republican, Democrat, those are the two big ones.
I'm like, yeah, okay, but you're a Christian first.
Yeah.
You're not a Republican first.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. Again, I've said this probably like 18 times on this podcast. I'm not a Republican. But I can see why Christians would be so easy to say that you're a Republican, because there's so many issues that are important to Christians that typically align with Republicans. For instance, small government is supposedly a Republican Party platform. It's really not. But they say that.
Does any political party want small government?
Yes.
Libertarian.
The Libertarian Party.
Amen.
Yes. Yeah. So
Here's the
There's
thing.
that.
Here's the thing that we don't get reminded of a lot.
Are you picking up
The
history?
Declaration of Independence says that we not only have the right, but we also have the duty to alter or abolish any government that does not secure our unalienable rights.
alienable.
There you go. Including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Amen.
Right.
So, I mean, constantly we're going after like our constitutional rights, but yeah, we don't talk about that part.
Yeah, it's true.
Try and take my guns.
Yeah,
you went
try. You just try, man.
I'll shoot
Yeah,
you.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I do find funny.
I won't. I have no guns.
I don't either.
Just for all my listeners.
I mean, I have so many guns. My home is so secure. I have a bazooka, for crying out loud.
yeah, I have a take actually.
Yeah.
He leaves his door unlocked.
It's parked out front. Well, the door's unlocked, but there's also
Keys are in the ignition.
you get me derailed.
His
Now I know what it's
address
like.
is.
Just a social security number. His birthday is.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, guys.
Sorry. Is he gonna come back?
I don't know if I can.
Yeah, you can.
It was
it is.
the whole redneck Republican thing where it's like mutt thin blue line, but then also come and take it. That idea that I love the police, you know, like those cops, they're protecting America, blah blah blah. Insert whatever kind of pro police comment you can think of, and then the idea that well, you know, if a law gets passed where you're going to take my guns, I dare you to come take them.
Right.
Right? Because you're making an enemy out of the person that you just said you supported. Because who's going to take your guns?
Right.
The cops are.
Well, actually, not all of them will.
Yeah,
Not all
I'll
of them.
grant you.
Yeah, I've heard already like police saying like if that passes, I'm not doing it. Which
Yeah,
is
that's true.
based off of that thing I just shared, I think is where they're coming from. Like I'm not gonna endorse what I feel like is a law passed against the constitutional rights that give us all, what this is built on.
Yeah.
I've heard it.
I have probably less faith in humanity.
Yeah. Well, there's still a lot that will, but I mean,
Yeah.
I actually watched an article where
You watched an article?
Well, he watched The Worst Go By and he read it.
I watched I don't know what it was. This lady was basically just given a warning, and she was a police officer in Washington State. Can't remember which county. But anyway, she just went off about some of the things that she was seeing, paperwork going, and they're already training people in departments on, I think it had to do with guns, but anyway, she's just going off, like, just know, not everybody. And she's saying, like, I don't even know if I'm safe, by putting this out here, but I couldn't sit on it anymore. And, basically, if I disappear, pay attention. Pay attention.
That's sketchy, man.
That is savage. Are we going to go into Hillary Clinton yet or no?
Which?
I think, hold on, that's Hillary.
Oh,
Just kidding.
welcome to the podcast, Hillary. We were just about to talk about you.
Peace.
No, about the Clintons. I mean, he just said if I disappear.
Oh, the
So
Clintons,
that's
yeah.
my first thought is people disappearing. The Clintons.
The Clintons are sketchy as heck.
Have
That's
they
just-
disappeared?
That's what I'm gonna say.
Or
No,
dude, they
they've had
disappeared
so they've
people.
disappeared
many people.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
they just,
they
for sure.
they've murdered. They've murdered people.
Wow.
I don't know if you can say they've murdered people.
There's like 23, I think,
people in connection to the Clintons seem to have a tendency
to commit suicide.
Yes.
23 of them actually.
23 have committed suicide.
And then there's like
Are these
3.
people that disagree with the Clintons?
Or
Yeah.
otherwise vanished. Or some people that might have dirt on the Clintons or whatever. But to
Or
me,
maybe
it's,
they're really rich and they endorse other people.
There's 3. There's 3 that are like super sketchy.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
well,
but then there's another 20 of them that you go, they could have committed suicide or disappeared. But then you think about it, you're like, probably not.
yeah.
I think we should bring ninjas back. Are there still ninjas out there?
We really got off the topic.
I want some ninjas.
Define ninja for me, Stevie.
Black pajamas, right? Little slit through the eyes.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
want
Smoke
them.
bombs, swords, like quiet, stealthy.
Yeah. So those people exist.
Assassins, basically,
Yeah.
without...
Well, I mean, America employs assassins, right? You got black ops teams.
I said ninjas.
Also,
Well, they're like ninjas, but better because they have better technology.
No, I want ninjas.
I like
I want
ninjas.
ninjas.
I mean, I don't feel
I
like we're gonna
understand.
ever
Better
use.
it's easier.
I don't know
right?
why
These
you
guys are lethal.
brought that up though.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I
I know we started this podcast and Bethel got on Hillary Clinton. And
That's
Bill
what
Clinton
did
giving
it.
People.
I want a ninja to take out Hillary Clinton.
Do not say
That
that.
doesn't make me a murderer.
No.
No, that just makes
Why
you.
not say that? Isn't that what she did?
Yeah, well,
I
we don't
think
know
you-
that.
I'm
You
just
can't.
kidding,
I know, but you
guys.
can't say that.
Really?
No.
Justin's telling me
That's-
not to say stuff.
You could get into legal trouble.
Wow.
If you say something like
Well,
I'm
she's
just
not
kidding.
the president.
that. Well, no, but with anybody. Do we need to get into this right now?
No.
I don't
no.
know.
I just want ninjas. Okay, guys? Like,
Okay.
I just want some ninjas.
Okay.
We really
In
got
real
off.
life.
Yeah. Yeah, America's great. They whitewash history. We pledge allegiance to the flag, not Jesus, and we have our identity rooted in our political party.
Yeah.
So at least
Those
give
are
us,
all my issues.
at least
Those
give
are all
us
true.
some ninjas, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'll feel a little bit better about it.
Who's giving us ninjas?
Well, hopefully America, right?
No, we don't want America's ninjas.
We don't want anyone's.
I want ninjas. I'm sure of it. All right,
To do
whatever.
something, but we're not gonna say what.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
just-
we can't, apparently.
Just be ninja-y.
yeah.
Anyway,
Probably, preferably in my front yard.
Yeah.
I thought you had a tank.
I do.
Oh, okay.
It can be ninja-y on my tank. That's
Okay,
fine.
cool.
Around my tank.
Cool.
Inside my tank.
Ninja E. You'll
Yeah.
never see him coming.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can talk about music.
Should we?
It is a music podcast.
It is.
That's interesting. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think overall in this podcast we spend 10% of our time talking about music.
Talking about
No, it's a
music.
lie. It's got to be. I refuse
It's got to be
believe
less
that.
or it's got to be more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's gotta be less.
I believe we talk about music a lot more than that. But I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to see any factual statistics.
Well, you have a good point, though, because thinking back, most of our topics have been heavily music. We just get off topic a lot.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
About music.
Yeah.
Okay. Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Okay. Did you see?
A
Have
great
you seen
dancer.
her smile?
It chills me to my very bones, and yes.
Right? But like somehow everybody's like, yes. Talk about cult, right? Trust her.
The cult of
Trust her.
personality.
You see that? That's like you practice that. Like I feel like it's evil. Anyway, I don't mean to get into that, but it's kind of like a lullaby in a horror movie. That's what Hillary Clinton's smile reminds me of, right? It's just not right. Like there's something happening.
Right.
I'm seeing it, and
Because a smile is typically happy.
right.
But
As a
Somewhere deep
lullaby.
down inside,
Yeah.
there's not happiness.
yeah.
Supposed to be happy.
I don't think Hillary Clinton's happiness is very deep down. I think it's very surface level.
Oh, jeez.
I think she's very happy.
Why are we just like
I want to point
murdering
out,
Hillary Clinton with words right now?
I want to point out you brought up Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Well, you
Nobody
talked about
else.
disappearing people. What am I not going to mention the Clintons?
I tried to
Yeah,
get
I
us
guess
back
that's
on
a good
track
point.
with ninjas, but you guys just
Okay.
wouldn't go for it.
What do you mean back on track with ninjas? That's more off track.
This podcast has
Anyway,
never been on track.
Lullabies.
Actually,
It's true.
You've only watched like one.
I've also been in two. Well,
This is the second.
I've watched one and been in two. That
Yeah.
doesn't help. That's not really good for our
So
listeners.
to
Anyway,
explain what he means by that, we recorded one with him
earlier today.
that was very different from this one.
yeah,
different.
I think it went. This was going well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You don't have to lie, man.
okay. Lullabies and horror movies, right?
Yeah.
It's not right. It's a happy song. It should make me feel comfortable to sleep in my bed.
Yeah.
But you have an axe in your hand and you're going to kill some innocent poor person.
You do a really good Cartman voice, by the way.
Like Hillary Clinton's smile.
Okay.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton smile very unsettling
Right.
because there's just
Something else
something in
going
there.
on.
Something like an axe murderer. I mean, it can't help that she's married to Bill Clinton. Like, let's be
No, I'm
honest.
trying
like,
to get into the music part. I'm trying to get in the music part.
But Bill Clinton, I mean, is a terrible human.
Didn't he play the
he
saxophone?
is. I don't know, but
I don't
he's
know.
the worst.
He was on
I mean,
MTV.
Anyway.
That's about
Oh.
music.
That's
so.
I'm just trying to get our 10% in here somehow.
Well, we
Yeah.
got 10% me talking about sound engineering.
That's true.
It's true, man.
That's true. I feel better now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You
Yeah.
talk about unsettling images when music is being played. That's supposed to be settling.
Right.
And kind of talk about how a lot of the times you have a really poppy song that if you actually listen to the lyrics are kind of unsettling.
Right. Like, oh, it's
Yeah, you feel
happy,
great,
but
and then you
someone's
actually look
committing
about it.
suicide or something horrible.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I'm sure that's probably happening.
I'm probably
Like,
that's probably a song.
well, Pumped Up Kicks, pretty much, right? Because isn't that about like a school shooting? Or
It's about a school shooting. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good example.
and it's you never really listen to the lyrics. It's
yeah,
really
so how do
weird
you
to
guys feel about that? How do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel about like, oh man, I'm digging this. Like, you're having a good time, and then later you find out what the song's about.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's effective?
Yes.
Tell me how, or like why you feel about it.
Because the words infect your brain, but you make unconscious assumptions or maybe subconscious assumptions about the content while knowing what the words are.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's only later when you're thinking about what the words mean together
Mm-hmm.
that you're thinking, you know what? Actually, I do think that song is about a shooting,
Right.
not about having a great time with your friends.
So like when you're like dancing to the song, does that ever happen to you guys? Like where you're dancing to the song when that like realization kicks in, and then
Well,
you're like,
yeah. Like I remember right when that song
should I be-
came out, Pumped Up Kicks, right when
I
it came
can't
out.
dance to someone getting shot up at a school, can I? Like
Ah,
now I'm really like don't know what to do with myself.
Where are you going?
well, that's the thing is, it's a groovy song. You're
Right.
supposed to catch yourself going, and then oh frick, like I just did that. Like
I'm
I
sick.
Just,
I hate myself.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
think it's exactly what they were trying to do,
Oh, okay. So
and it worked.
Nice.
I don't like it
Yeah.
because it feels fake.
It doesn't feel fake to me. It feels dishonest, but that's what art is. You know, it's something that is accurate, folded up into something that is not necessarily accurate. So like a parable, it's fiction, it's not true, but there is truth.
And
But I think that the parable is actually the opposite. I think that, I mean, it's similar, but it's different. It's not in a package that's like, oh, the package is wrapped in isn't a package that disagrees with the content that is inside the package.
Oh, but I don't think. I see what you're saying.
Disagreement might not be the best word, but you hear what I'm saying. Like,
I do, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a trick. A parable's, you know what I mean? Like that feels almost like a trick, right? Like you're like,
Yeah. I think what it's more intended to do, though, it's not intended to be a trick. It's intended to catch you off guard.
yeah,
Because I think, you could make the argument, again, I have no idea what they were thinking when they decided to write Pumped Up Kicks the way they did.
right.
But they didn't write it as like a super sad ballad.
Right. Hopefully not the same thing Hillary was thinking every time she smiles.
I hope not. But they didn't write it as a ballad, right? They didn't write it as a very obviously sad song, but it is sad. You're supposed to be, like you said, unsettled. It's supposed to be a little bit, and I think it's almost like commentary. It's almost like commentary on how we treat school shootings, right? Or maybe just acts of violence in general, or mass violence.
See, I like that. Come on, speak on this. You got some.
Well, I think it's just you. A lot of the times, people don't actually listen to the lyrics,
Right, especially
Yeah.
at the age.
especially. And so when I don't know, it just feels like really weird to have a song and then it not match what the lyrics are actually saying. And then you have a bunch of kids who actually don't listen to the lyrics, listening to it,
Yeah.
and it just feels kind of weirdly fake.
But as an artist, you're not responsible for how people interpret your stuff. Like it's
No.
either it can be well written and well intentioned and be misconstrued. That's not your fault as an
No.
artist.
Well, yeah, but you're intentionally doing that. Like you want that to happen, kind of.
What do you mean? So when you say intentionally doing that, what do you mean?
Like the music was written intentionally, the lyrics, right? Like you were saying, a commentary,
a
like
little misleading,
catch you off guard. I do think that when you're intentional about doing something, like you should be somewhat responsible for that. You don't get to be intentional with stuff and not be like, oh, sorry you took it that way. Like, well, that's
Well,
the
what do you
way-
mean responsible? I guess that depends what you mean by that.
I mean, accountable for how people perceive it.
Accountable to who? To what? It's just kind of like it's too out there of a concept for me.
Yeah.
If you write a book, right, and the book is about a murderer, say, and then someone reads it, like, okay, Catcher in the Rye, actually, this is a great example because Catcher in the Rye has a reputation for being the book that murderers read, right?
Yeah.
Is it the guy who wrote Catcher in the Rye's fault? Like, is he writing a book for serial killers to read?
Right.
Like, who are you going to hold him accountable to? Like, how dare you write a book that a serial killer would read and then kill people while also having the book? It's just kind of, it's too out there. Like, what are we holding them accountable to, right? Making art in a way that's different from what we want it to be?
Well, I guess you should, I think, have to answer for what it's doing, like what it's cultivating, or at
Right.
least be able to, talk about it. Especially, and I get it is a, what do you call it? It is kind of a ethereal type of
Yeah.
Out there
idea
concept.
because you can't really track it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Well, I
hard to be
think-
like, oh, were you intentionally wanting to, But for me, I think every human being should be I think every human being is responsible for the words that they speak, and the things that they do and music that they make.
Right.
And I think you have a responsibility for what you're giving people, But again, like that's not necessarily with Pumped Up Kicks. Like this seems kind of a more shallow version of that. You know what I mean? Like I like how you interpret. How you interpreted of the commentary of like how like the way I heard it was like how the mass public, how we act when things like this happen, right? Like it's not that big of a deal. Like to me, that's like looking at it that way is very artistic. Like that's a wake up call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, hey, I'm doing this and it's fun and it shouldn't be fun,
Yeah.
But again, there's the other part. It's like, middle schoolers and high schoolers are listening to that and not listening to the words,
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know.
Well, when you say like responsible for, I guess like the first thing my brain goes to is we're all responsible to God, right? So if God is real, which we all believe that He is, all the three of us in this room, we believe that we will all be held accountable and responsible for our own actions.
Yeah.
So 100% I agree with you on that.
Right.
But like, if I tell you, Stevie, if I'm like, hey, Stevie, you should kill Josh, and then you kill him, I'm not responsible for that.
I think you are if he's a middle school kid.
Wait, so if I tell you and you're you.
No, if I'm a middle school kid and you tell
Right.
me and you're somebody that I look up to, yeah, I think you're totally responsible. Like, not fully. I still did the act, but yeah, you definitely have a percentage of that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because that takes free will out of the equation.
Well, no, you still have free will, but that doesn't mean that you weren't influenced by somebody else, which that's the responsibility you have.
Yeah, and see, and that's what I think. I think we're responsible to God. Yes, totally agree, but I also think we're responsible to each other. Now, I take that responsibility fairly lightly with a lot of people because they don't realize that they don't take any responsibility. They don't know that they're important. They don't realize they're powerful. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I overlook a lot of that, but we are powerful, and you will answer, I believe, to God.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
in the meantime, like, your life is supposed to mean something. It's supposed to do stuff. It's supposed to, affect other people, I think, in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
anyway.
I think in order for that to be effective, though, that would have to be a role, right? Holding someone accountable or responsible. That's a role that we have in a lot of places in society. So if you commit a crime,
Right.
you're held responsible
Right,
by
right.
the government, right?
Yeah.
Just to put it broadly, but by the police, by a
it's
judge.
But it's
But
not the kind of thing I'm talking about. But yeah.
right, but when we're talking about ideas, who's going to hold ideas responsible?
No,
Like, what does that even mean?
No, an idea, unless, like you said, if you make your idea happen, like if you make an idea happen, now you're responsible. You built something with it. It's like Bill Gates. Microsoft was an idea.
Right.
Now it's a company, and he's
Right.
responsible for his employees, for the business, for everything that Microsoft does. So no,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about if you have an idea, but once it's fleshed out,
Right. Well, but I mean, like, so if I were to say, Stevie, kill Josh, that's an idea. That's all that is. It's ethereal. It's words formed into a pattern, or maybe words is not the right way to put it. It's sounds formed into a pattern that we interpret as words, which is interpreted into an action. There's no reason that you as a person can't take that idea and reject it.
oh, totally.
So to say that I'm responsible for the idea in the sense that I voiced the idea, I created the idea, that is true, but I'm not responsible for any action that has taken place.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't agree with you, but yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's like saying, the school systems aren't responsible for the fruit that our kids are leaving the class with.
Well, they're I would argue that they're not in the sense, well, maybe not in the same sense that you're thinking. They're responsible for saying something that is untrue or maybe creating a climate that is unsafe and
yeah,
unproductive.
right.
But
They're not responsible for the actions of the kid.
the parents are responsible for putting them in that situation. The kids are responsible for engaging in activities that they should not be if they are. So I mean,
Well, it says in the scripture. I mean, something that comes to mind is parents are definitely, but it says guardians. It says children are heirs to the kingdom, right? Just like everybody else. But when they're young, for a time, they're entrusted under guardians.
Yeah.
I think it's the word is guardians.
Yeah.
And we know that parents are like, that's the big role. But I believe that guardians, that's not the only role, you know. Now I could throw in some other stuff, like it takes a village, you know, to raise a child, you know. But I think that guardians represents a lot more than just the parents. And so I think that guardians are responsible for the words that they speak. You know, I'm not saying that the person, like you tell me to kill Josh and I do it, you're 100% responsible for his death.
Right.
You know, and I don't know how you weigh that out, but you have some responsibility for sure, I think. You know, it says you're entrusted under guardians until a time. Who knows when that time is? Like my daughter right now, she's 11, and I can tell you, like, she's ready for stuff that I wouldn't, you know, give to most 11-year-olds just because she's on a different level, right? So I don't really put an age on it, but, you know, I think there's something in us, like, I believe, this is what I believe. I believe our parents, for one, and our, you know, other people in our life are a representation. They're supposed to be a representation of what God is like, and to help us transition into figuring that out for ourselves, right? And so, like, the transition be smoother when you're around more people that have the fruit of God. Because when you're getting to know God, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, that kind of reminds me of my Aunt Sally in the way, like, she, you know, talks to me when I'm in trouble. Or, you know what I mean? Like, these different things. So that's a power that I think that, you know, people that are older have for, you know, younger kids. You know, so, yeah, that's my take on it. Food for thought.
Yeah.
But I get, like, you know, accountability and responsibility. Yeah, when I'm using those terms, it makes me think, you asked the question of, like, how do you quantify that? And I don't really know. It's not like I think you need to be going to court, you know, because you wrote a song that, you know, negatively affected somebody. You know, that's not what I'm talking about. But you know, being ready to answer for, and I think we should be always aware of how are we affecting other people? How is our music affecting other people? How is what I'm doing affecting other people, right? And I mean, like, really measuring that, like the good stuff, you know, the parts that aren't good. I mean, there's a lot of areas that are good, but then these little chunks that are off-putting, you know, usually are, at least for me. My wife is huge at pointing those out for me, you know. But yeah, I think that's something that we should be. But yeah.
Well, I mean, so it's an interesting concept for sure. I just don't know. So when you say that held responsible, I don't know what that means outside of any kind of, like, a legal responsibility. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know what to do with that exactly in my head.
Yeah. I don't know either. I know for me, like, if I see areas in my life where I know that, you know, I'm negatively affecting somebody, because it's not always very clear, right? Sometimes you might wonder, like, am I affected? Is this because of me? Am I doing something to cause this? And you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't stay in that place where you're tripping in your own head and trying to dig into, like, these things. Like, what if, you know?
Yeah.
You can ask, like, hey, you ever felt like, you know, like, is there areas in my life that, you know, make you feel like this? Or, you know, and ask the question. You know, obviously, with my wife, I don't have to do that. She makes it clear, you know. But if I notice areas in my life that get pointed out that I see negative fruit, you know what I mean, negative interactions in my relationships, even without people telling me, you know, I think that it's important to go to them and be like, hey, I feel like I've, you know, made you feel this way.
Right.
You know, this is something I've been going through. I didn't realize it, but I just want to let you know, like, I don't want to make you feel that way. This is who, you know, this is how I think about you, and this is how I want you to feel, you know. So I guess just taking inventory and making it right. But, yeah, I don't really know. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
but I still think it's true.
Well, I kind of think it kind of goes back to our conversation about, I don't remember if this was on podcast. I think it was. We're talking about like taking offense. Mm-hmm. Was that on podcast?
No, I wasn't.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Not
so
on ours. You've only watched 2. You don't know.
what up?
Were you talking about us talking about it?
Oh, no. It was
different previous
because I
episode.
remember us talking about
Yeah,
it, but I don't
think it
remember.
was. I think
Yeah.
it
So
was.
basically, if you didn't see that one, and you haven't,
I haven't.
so there you go. I will explain it to you. So basically, I was taking the position that as humans we should be moving away from being offended by words, because you're essentially giving someone else's words, or to take it even further back in its genesis, an idea. You're giving someone else's idea power over you.
Yeah.
So in the instance where I'm trying to convince, for whatever reason, don't know why I would do that, but in the instance where I'm trying to convince Stevie to kill you, if he takes what I say serious and he does it, he has given my words power over him.
Yeah.
Right? And I am the one that said the words. I'm the one that voiced the idea. So in that sense, I am responsible for its origin. But in terms of the action, Stevie would have had to give my words power over him in order to do the act.
Yeah.
But that's a choice that has to be made along the road somewhere, right?
Yeah, well, like, we could hang out. You know, we could hang out and form our relationship, and I'm not saying, like, this has happened or anything. And for whatever reason, there's this bond that forms, right?
Yeah.
And in some areas, to you, it feels like, you know, Stevie feels like a big brother. You know what I mean? Well, your big brother's words have power in your life. You know what I mean? They're supposed to.
Sure.
You know, maybe not like the kind of power, well, if you're a middle schooler, you know what I mean? They have a lot of power.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So maybe quantifying, establishing my premises, or premise, I should say. My premise is that I am as much of a stranger to you as a musician is to his fans, right? The person that listens to someone's music has never met them.
That's true.
Right? So, and when you write a song, you're not writing a song to the person even. You're just saying words to the ether, right? You might be writing the song like to your mom, right? And so in your mind is an audience of one.
Right.
And you use that perspective to create a product.
Right.
So a song.
True.
Put the song out.
Okay.
Let's say
In that premise, like, how much responsibility should you have, right?
right, yeah. That's kind of my thought process, because like in the case of Pumped Up Kicks, right? So say a kid listens to Pumped Up Kicks, shoots up a school. Horrible tragedy. Is it the fault of the people that wrote the song?
Right. Yeah. No.
Which is why I brought up the Catcher in the Rye example, right? Is whatever the guy's name is who
I'm glad
wrote
you're
it.
bringing it up. Yeah. I do not in any way blame these massive things on a song or a
Right.
video game, you know?
Yeah.
That's not my stance at all. So I'm glad you brought that up. Like, there's a lot more going on and there's a lot more factors at play, you know?
Yeah.
So no, I don't. But like, we know this. Okay, say a kid goes, like, say a kid from a tribe in a third world country, you know, and they grow up and they find this new herb or whatever, and they're like, oh,
The heart-shaped herb?
let's burn this herb by the ocean. Let's burn this herb by the ocean and throw the ashes into the ocean as a sacrifice to our God or something, right?
Yeah.
And so they start doing that. And like, no big deal. This is just part of our, you know, tradition and our worship. You know, well, as months go on, they find out like, no, this thing is toxic, and whales and like all the sea life, right? It's polluting the sea, and they're dying, and like it's
This is
causing
a very specific example, but go on.
yeah, it's causing this huge issue, right?
Yeah.
Plastic.
We need to start looking at that, right? It didn't start off as like something like I was just doing this thing, and we know this for sure. And again, like, to preface it with, I do not believe that one song or one band or, you know, like one video is responsible for these huge massacre, like these devastating events. You know, I
Yeah.
know there's a lot more to play, but we know that entertainment and media is huge and it's powerful, and we can see it affecting our culture all around us.
Yeah.
What like we talked about on the last episode of like America's obsession with sex, and you know how everything is sexualized. Like in a large part, entertainment and media has done that. You know, and so we have to. I feel like you got to look at that thing and be like, okay, this is causing me, you know, issues, and I'm a part of that world. You know.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility for that part, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, that's what I mean. But yeah, I'd never blame. I think it's I'm one of the guys that's kind of like, oh my gosh, when somebody goes after, this was Ozzy Osbourne's fault that all this happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not on that train.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Never have been.
That's kind of what I thought you were saying. So, but I was like, I don't really feel like that's a position that he would have. So I was
Yeah.
trying to figure that one out.
Yeah.
I think my wife's here.
Okay.
Let her in really quick.
All right. Welcome, Allie, to the podcast.
We're still podcasting.
Yeah. I know. That's all right. I think we're like
think
way
we're-
long.
Yeah, we're probably on like 2 hours or something. But.
I've been outside for like an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we
Really?
got he kept opening cans and then dropping bombs.
Yeah, we
We've
got
been
on
talking
so many
about
things.
Hillary
Ninjas.
Clinton.
We got on Hillary Clinton,
Ninjas.
Bethel. Yeah, Jesus was mentioned a couple times.
Yeah, he was a lot more than
Music.
Hillary Clinton, probably.
Yeah, music was
So we're
mentioned
all right.
twice. Twice, I think.
Yeah, twice. That being said, do we want to just kind of leave that, or
Yeah, you guys are welcome. That's what I'm gonna say. You're welcome for all this, and till next time.
and we're responsible?
Yeah. Anyway.